So welcome, my name is Peter Taylor. Welcome to this session, AI, the end of project management as we know it. We've got a few more people coming in, so Nikki, I'm going to trust that you'll allow the new people to join us as they wait in the waiting room. I can see the numbers going up. Fantastic. This, as I said, was I was really excited to do this session because it's been something I'm quite keen on. I think it's a really exciting part of project management now, and certainly in the coming years as this evolves. So this is going to be brilliant. I'm loving this. Let us introduce ourselves a little bit better. So my name is Peter Taylor. I'm sure most of you know me. It was through my social network that you reached out to most of you. I'm known as a Lazy Project Manager. I'm a speaker, I'm an author, I'm a trainer, I'm a consultant, I'm a coach. That's kind of it really that you need to know from me, because the important thing today is the topic of AI and project management. And my co-presenter and the host effectively of this event, Craig. Craig, do you want to say hello to everybody?
Hi everyone, thanks for joining and taking time out of your day. Yeah, I'm Craig Mackay. I'm CEO and co-founder at Sharktower. More importantly, I'm 20 years plus delivering projects of all descriptions. I'm not quite as busy as Peter, so I just tried to build some software that tries to help projects, but also tried to deliver projects for the last decade. So I'm really looking forward to this discussion as well. Hope it's provocative. I hope you all get involved as well with some questions at the end.
Perfect. Thank you, Craig. All right. Let's kick things off properly then. All right. So this was a bit of fun, wasn't it? We kind of love this. I think, we went with some straight promotion to begin with, and then suddenly someone says, and it was inevitable, someone mentioned Terminator, someone mentioned Skynet. So I thought, why not go down this line? And I'm sure the reality is that, most of you, if not all of you, you don't actually think this. We don't think that we're about to launch into the Terminator Skynet world at all when it comes to AI. But it's an interesting point in time, I think. And here's a great example. So on the left-hand side there, you've got the UK Patent Office. And the UK Patent Office is it's one of the oldest or longest continuous patent offices or traditions in the world, actually. It's one of those weird things. It's really hard to find out which one was first out there. But the UK one has been going since the 15th century, so it's quite established. And the actual earliest, I looked this up because it's interesting, because the earliest known English patent for an invention was granted by Henry VI in 1449, and it gave a guy called John of Uttingham a 20-year monopoly of making stained glass for Eton, and this was used in Eton College, amongst other things. Now, why is this on there as far as an AI conversation? Well, a lady called Kathy Borrow pointed me in this direction, because there has been a case already, it's known as a Davis hearing decision, where someone attempted to lodge a patent that was created or invented by AI. So, the argument was that this thing had been invented. I don't know what it was actually, but it was created, it was invented, and they wanted to patent it. And the origin of it, they argued, was AI. Now, the actual decision that came down as a result of this was that you cannot have a patent or an invention that has been created by a non-human at this point in time. But the Patent Office has already said, you know what, we reject this, but actually there should be a debate for the future, because this is something that we need to deal with in the near future. So on one hand, the potential, the possibility is absolutely huge, of course. On the other hand, what is that weird picture with a hand and a fish? Well, there's a great TED talk out. It's by a lady called Janelle Shane, and she's talking about how weird AI is right now. And the situation is, one program, AI program out there, has been unable to understand the concept of a hand and a fish, in the sense that it believes that the human fingers and the fish are one thing, on the grounds that most of the images that presumably it has consumed are of people holding fish, and therefore right now it cannot differentiate between the two. So you've got the two extremes there, is that AI is in its very early days on the right hand side, but obviously the thoughts are, for the future, this is something that we need to really think about. AI will undoubtedly change how projects are delivered and how project management as a practice will evolve. This is from Mark Laumann, who's a partner lead transformation assurance at PwC, who was talking about the fact, and it's an interesting article that you can read about this, but he was talking about the fact that it's inevitable. There's no fighting this. There is no resistance to this. This will happen. So come to terms with it. That's why I was delighted to have this opportunity to explore AI a little bit, AI in the world of project management. I'm looking forward to hearing what Craig and the team have been working on specifically in this area. This one from Gartner, again, quite a significant report about how AI will reinvent program and portfolio management. Now, what Gartner's saying here is that by 2030, so we're not talking too far ahead, 10 years, by 2030, 80% of the work of today's project management discipline will be eliminated as AI takes on functions such as data collection, tracking, reporting. So 80% of what you do as project managers today, or what your project managers do, if you're head of a PMO or head of a program, project practice, for example, 80% of that work will just not be there anymore. It will be eliminated because AI will take it on and deal with it. And deal with it, no doubt, in a very consistent manner. So what does that mean? Does that actually mean that there will be a need for only 1/5 of project managers in the future? Or does it mean something different? Now, my personal view here is it doesn't mean that. I think there will be just as many project managers out there as the project-based economy grows. But the work of the project manager will be fundamentally different. Now, I know about you, and I'm being honest here, this stuff about data collection and tracking and reporting, it's the stuff that didn't excite me as much as it probably should have done when I was an active project manager. It wasn't the stuff that excited me when I headed up some PMOs for various organizations around the world, because it was kind of boring and functional and tedious in many ways. And also we battled with underlying systems of inconsistency of data, etc. So what I think this actually means, and I love if you've ever read The Lazy Project Manager, I talk a lot about the 80-20 rule. Actually, what I think this means is that project managers of the future will spend not 80% of the time doing this, but perhaps 20% of their time doing what the normal project management discipline, the mechanics of project management. And what they will get back to, I believe they will get back to it, is spending 80% of their time talking about the people, focusing on the people, focusing on the project teams and the resources. If I reflect back when I started in project management, this is exactly where I entered, because I didn't understand or have any experience of the mechanics of project management at all. I did what I did based on my experience in the soft skills, in the people area. And I think that's how, if you like, the generation of the accidental project managers survived, because we didn't know anything else. Now, things have changed, we moved on, and we were trained in project management. We understand the mechanics of project management a lot more. It's a bit like, in other ways, I was thinking about this, it's a bit like driving. I passed my test many, many years ago. And as a 17-year-old, I learned the basic mechanics of driving safely on the roads in England. And over the years, obviously, I've gained significant experience through the many, many miles that I've done. But right now, if I compare the vehicle I had back then versus the vehicle I drive today, but my vehicle is doing so much more. I mean, it's helping me navigate, and it's helping me anticipate issues and problems and potential collisions. It's a far more sophisticated machine that is that's providing data all the time and intelligence all the time, as I drive it and as it's being served, etc. Now, has it taken away from me the basic need for me to drive it? Absolutely not. Although, the future here is quite an interesting one with autonomous vehicles. So, what is AI to start with? This is an interesting definition: the design and building of intelligent agents that receive percepts from the environment and take actions to maximize its chance of successful achievement. I'm going to read this one because I did a bit of research here, and I really came across the fact that there are, in fact, two types of AI, which is, it helps me to understand it. There's narrow AI and there's general AI. Now, narrow AI, this is stuff that you'll recognize. And again, it's going to be interesting to see where this sits in project management. But narrow AI is all about AI interpreting video feeds from drones, carrying out visual inspections of things like infrastructure of oil pipelines, etc. It's about organizing personal business calendars. It's about responding to simple customer service queries, coordinating with other intelligence systems to carry out tasks, and things like that. Whereas general AI is very different. This is a type of adaptable intellect found in humans, a flexible form of intelligence capable of learning how to carry out vastly different tasks. And this is the stuff, if you like, that is, the fear of Skynet, the fear of HAL in 2001, the Terminator. It just doesn't exist today. And there's a huge argument out there about if and when it will actually turn up in the future. So the focus really is right now is on narrow AI. And why now? Because really the technology is there. Dr. Athena Karaniram, Chief Analytics Officer of Accenture, said that AI is shaping up to be the biggest technological revolution the world has ever seen. It's a completely new factor, capable of driving business growth by augmenting natural human expertise, taking automation to new places and diffusing innovation throughout society. What she's saying is that AI technologies right now are hitting the mainstream thanks to a combination of the power of virtually unlimited cloud processing, the exponentially faster custom designed chips, and a greater level of computational efficiency. So now is the time, and already we're seeing stuff happening out there. Couple of two or three headlines here. I mean, Gartner are talking about the fact that 2.3 million jobs will be created through AI. Now, it recognizes that 1.8 million jobs will be lost because of AI. Things change. Again, we're a kind of generational or evolutionary step here. But out of that, out of that creation of jobs, 2.9 trillion in business value will be added, which is phenomenal. Google, I mean, the CEO of Google said this actually, AI is one of the most important things humanity is currently working on. And you can argue with the CEO of Google. I mean, they know what they're talking about here. And then finally, Forbes said that AI is one of the most important things humanity is working on. Again, that's just the CEO, but AI is saying Forbes is saying it's a unique ability to monitor patterns. It becomes a capable assistant to project managers. Studies have shown that project managers spent more than half their time on admin tasks, such as dealing with check-ins and managing updates, whereas bots are capable of stepping up and dealing with that, allowing handling those kind of less intensive tasks for the project manager to spend time on other important things. So a huge saving is there as well. Exciting times. We're going to use Menti here. So if you haven't used Menti before, all you need to do is you need to grab your mobile phone, your portable device, and you just type in Menti into the search, and you'll come up with Mentimeter, and it'll ask you for a code. Now you can see at the top of the screen, the code is there. So all you've got to do is put that code in, which is 396408. Once you've done that, submit that, and you will see the slides come up, and you'll see the opportunity to start voting. So let's see. How do you feel about AI and project management right now? Are you excited? Are you bored? Are you worried? Are you neutral? Are you concerned? Let's just put it in. Enter your, I'm going to do it myself, actually. Here we go. Right, we're going to let that run for a little bit just to see what people think. That's great. It's interesting. The majority of people are excited about it at the moment. This is good news. Good news, Craig, I think here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
done
these polls in the past, and generally everybody's on the cautious, neutral, even concerned. So we've got a good audience.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I'm just going to take a note of these because we're going to come back to that shortly. So we've got 59, 23, 5, 10, 2, and 0. Just going to see if it changes. All right. Thank you for that. All right, moving on. So again, if you look at AI and project management, you can break it down into these kind of 4 areas. It's sort of a hierarchy of capability, if you like. So at the lowest level, you've got integration and automation. This is kind of as it says, the streamlining and automating tasks through integration and process automation, such as automatically tracking the progress and status of tasks performed by project team members and alerting project managers on to get involved or intervention by exception. So it's doing all that kind of grunt work, if you like, the background stuff that's going on, making things. And when there's an exception, when there's a deviation, when there's something it's worried about, then it will alert the project manager, and the project manager steps in. That is effectively the kind of integration and the automation component. The second one level is chatbot assistance. We mentioned that already. This is, additional, integration and automation with additional human-computer interaction, mainly based on speech or text recognition. An example here is chatbots can take over kind of menial tasks such as organizing meetings, plan and versus progress checks, reminding project team members of scheduled activities and things like that. And then we step up to kind of the machine learning based project management. The third type of phase in project management, it brings this kind of predictive analytics, providing ongoing advice to the project manager. For example, on how to set up and steer the project given certain parameters, how to react to certain issues and risks to reach the best possible outcome based on work in past projects, that sort of thing. And the highest level there is the, it's kind of the autonomous project management. And this is kind of a level similar to what I talked about with, self-driving cars. Autonomous project management only needs very limited input from humans. And really this is quite a long way off. There are currently no real life examples of this, and this is a major product release we're going to have on this webinar from Sharktower. This is a long way off, and by long, it may not be more than a few years, but it's all way off at the moment. So we're going to go out to Menti now. I'd like to know, is your company using a technology tool that is in any way AI powered in project management? What do you think? Start those comments coming in. Yeah, you're kind of expecting that the majority are going to be no. I don't think that's any surprise. I must admit, the yes is a little higher than I expected, but that's, maybe that's due to my lack of ignorance as what's out there right now. I totally get some people just don't know at this point in time. It would be an interesting one to go and check afterwards. All right, there we go. So yes, obviously the majority no at this point in time. 18% are saying yes. So interesting. A second question, if I may. If your organization is using such technology, so if you did say yes, that 18%, which category do you think it sits? We talked about those 4 categories just now: integration, automation, chatbot, machine learning, or the autonomous, and we don't really expect anything in the autonomous area. Okay, yeah. Brilliant, all right, perfect. Again, I guess we wouldn't really expect anything. That's kind of a reasonable balance. The majority at the integration automation level, some on the chatbot assistance, and a few on the machine learning. All right, let's give that a little bit longer. Someone's coming with autonomous project management. Okay, interesting. All right, I'm going to give it another 10 seconds. Anybody else hasn't voted yet? Craig, whilst we're waiting for the last few to come in, can I ask you at this point, where do you see Sharktower in this kind of, I don't know, hierarchy is the right word, this categorization, if you like?
No, I think it's a really useful categorization. I think that the chart you had from PwC. So we're definitely in the machine learning based project management. That's what we want to do. Our vision is articulated as building the autonomous project, but we know that's 10, 20 years away. And actually, we think it more as an autonomous in terms of being able to make big scheduling, scenario modeling decisions that do that rapidly, as opposed to replacing humans in any way and helping guide humans through complex decisions and change and pivots, etc. Right. But yeah, where we work with Sharktower is in machine learning based project management. I think where most people will operate, and you'll see it, it's not just in project management, it's in everything you do in organizations. Bot technology, integration automation is quite prevalent. I'll talk a bit about that, because it's there in what we do. It's how we run call centers for the last decade, actually, has been on chatbots. and things like NHS 24. So you'd expect to see that being quite high in more mature organisations as well. So it's good. It's what I'd expect to see as well.
Yeah, I was having a chat with a chat bot just before this. I was trying to get some support for my website. There's a problem there, and I know I wasn't talking to a human. So, all right, thank you for everybody who's contributing to the Mentee polls. It's going to be useful for us. There's an example I like to share this one because I find it fascinating. It's about the hive mind. So it's kind of like what is possible with AI. This is the essence of this story. And this was done by an AI organization working with Oxford University. And what they did was they went and found 50 sports fans, football fans out there. And what they got these individual football fans to do was to predict the results of a number of weeks of Premier League football team results. Now, we know, there are certain teams that are very dominant and there are weaker teams. So if you think about predicting results, we know there's a certain pattern. Right now, if Liverpool are playing someone at the top of the league or playing someone who's right at the bottom of the league, the chances are Liverpool will win. But in the mid-table, it's always not so easy to predict things, and there are always surprises and upsets. Well, so they ran this for a number of weeks, and at the end of that, the individual football fans were individually predicting results, and the accuracy at the end of that first period of time over a number of weekends was that the individuals achieved an prediction accuracy of 53%, which, if you think about it, these are people that follow the football, understand the football, understand the teams, understand the way things work, understand the players. They are fans. And you think they would be pretty good on predicting, but the reality is they 53%. It's slightly better than tossing a coin, if you look at it that way. But what was really fascinating, and this is at the heart of one of the areas of what's possible here. What they did was they repeated the exercise over a similar period of time, similar number of matches, similar number of weekends, but instead of individuals predicting the results, they used a collective, they used a hive mind. They connected all of these individual football fans together. They used an AI platform, and they collectively predicted the results. And the results went up from 53% accuracy to 72% accurate. So quite a significant leap when we connected all of these minds together, if you like, where they had to come up with a consensus. It was the majority, it was the collective. And I think this is one fascinating examples of the power of AI. If you think in the world of project management, if you're able to connect all of your project team members out there, all of the smart resources, smart skills, all the experience you've got for people out there, and harness that in an efficient and fast way, then surely you're going to have better decisions made faster than if you're trying to do it individually or in small groups, etc. And in the current situation, that kind of remote virtual team connection, potential power is really, really valuable. So the hive mind, I think is a great example. I think of one AI trend that I think will significantly contribute to project success in the future. There's a thing to remember, though. There is a thing to remember that they're not human. AI cannot be human, as Mark Lehman says. This is a follow-up quote from that PwC article that Mark wrote. This is an evolution, but it's important to remember there is something behind this that AI cannot do, and that is to be human. And therefore, that I would say, and I think most people would agree with me, that AI is not going to destroy project management. It's not going to remove project managers from the face of the planet. It isn't, because fundamentally projects are about people, but project managers do need help, and that's really where the AI part of it sits in. Forbes stated here, if you think about AI and project management in the future, that over time, it seems likely that AI-enabled project management systems will be able to make the science of human behavior more concrete in various ways. And the system that is capable of analyzing someone's every move is likely to be more reliable in predicting actions, potential needs than an individual person may be. AI holds the key to helping management understand the distinctive nuances that are likely to come with the individuals who are working. We work in our own patterns, we work in our own way. But by analyzing that, understanding that, then there comes intelligence, knowledge, wisdom, if you like, in some ways, I guess. And so overall, the potential benefits of bringing AI into project management space are significant. That's the view of Forbes. Back to Menti, I'd like to understand. There's a whole, I've listed out here a whole bunch of areas that AI could be helpful to project managers, and you can choose up to 3. So again, if you go back to your Menti and have a look at those categories, we've got business case definition, scope statement, critical success factors, deliverables, work breakdowns, a whole long list there. Have a look at them, see which ones you think AI you believe can actually be beneficial. And then submit that. All right, thank you. They're coming in. Scheduling is high on the list there. Risk and issue management is high on the list. Resources. Yeah. Okay, keep them coming in. Keep them coming in. They're useful for us. We'll be reviewing these after the webinar finishes, and I know the Sharktower team will have an intention of putting together a white paper based on the work and research we've done up to this point, what's going on in the Sharktower world, and also the results of your thoughts, etc. So, yep, okay, scheduling right at the top there, absolutely. Resource planning, risk and issue management haven't really changed. Those top 3 are there. Let me just move this over. I can't see the right hand side. Yeah, there's one in the other. I was just making sure that other hadn't rocketed up to be number 1 there. All right, perfect. Thank you very much. So Craig, I'm going to invite Craig in at the shortly, or right now actually, to comment on this, and then Craig's going to share with you some thoughts he has. But Craig, to begin with, how do you think? Are you surprised by this? Was this what you expected as far as the results were concerned?
That's what I expected. It's really interesting. So I think the obvious places where we see automation and anything that's computational, right? Where we've got to work at complex. So scheduling, resource planning, risk and issue management, understanding impact, scenario modeling. Interestingly, you see what the lowest is team building, benefits realization, stakeholder management. So those are very low compared to the things. So when we look at things that seem absolute, so things that we can define quite well, schedules, dependencies, time, the money impact, that's where we think AI can help. But we haven't actually highlighted so much in team building. And I think it might be a difference between the type of projects as well. So for those of us who work on capital projects, big complex projects, construction, for example, as opposed to those of us that work on change management projects that are a bit more ambiguous, that's all about understanding the unknown, the uncertainty. So it's interesting. I think it's I'll certainly touch on that because I think there's a balance. I think AI can help us in both, and actually I think on the human side we can actually get a lot of help from AI as well to help us be better at the human side that we need to do as well as just the the analytical side and the data side.
I think I think you could overlay. What do you least enjoy about being a project manager? I think you could overlay onto that very, very well.
I think Great. That's the key there.
It's all yours. Take over, sir. Take over and share us with your thoughts and your wisdom.
Excellent. Thank you, Peter. And thank you for everyone for participating in the poll and the chat. I've been watching the chat with real interest. There's some great comments there that are very pertinent. So let me just give a little bit of introduction again back to myself and why I point out that you can't deliver the future with old school tools, which I might be referring to myself or the tools that you use. So, as I said, I've almost 20 years in delivering projects. The first 10 years, I think I really enjoyed it. I loved it. Yeah, maybe even the first 5. I was an accidental project manager. I grew up in the first phase of challenger banks in the days that we had, telephone banks and call centers in the first phase of fintech. And actually, everybody was involved in change, and it was pretty reactive and pretty pivotal stuff. And everybody seemed to be focused on getting the job done. But then as my career progressed, I started doing more and bigger change. I got bigger titles. I was senior project manager, then program manager, and program director, and heads of PMO and head of enterprise PMO. And the types of change I was dealing with were like £75 million programs, and hundreds of people over multiple locations and different vendors. And actually, the more resources I got, the more experience I got, the more I would even gravitas apparently I got, or ownership I got, the harder it seemed to become. I started to really get really frustrated that I could never have control of anything. I was always chasing data. It would take me 3 months to do program assurance on a failing project to find out when I think I've solved it. 3 months later, we've got another problem. Always been surprised. And ultimately, I think in the last 10 years of my career, I really struggled to remember what I'd actually delivered in terms of value and outcomes. So I was a frustrated project manager. And actually, I think that started to make me a lazy project manager, where actually I was not in the good way as well, like Peter, but in terms of I would do the bare minimum reporting. I would become defensive because actually it was everyone's fault and not the project's fault. And ironically, I was also delivering some of the most advanced projects in terms of digital transformations and data transformations. I was putting in financial services, underwriting automation and credit risk engines based on bots and AI technology that were giving people insurance decisions within seconds. But I was running it with mainly PowerPoint, Excel, and a lot of gut instinct and a lot of corralling people and a lot of chasing information. And it hasn't changed, and really hasn't changed in decades. I think we kind of all know it, that we're getting asked to do more and more in harder environments and harder complex. And yet, we've had many methodologies, we've been throw more resources at it, and still 45% of projects overrun, more than half of them under deliver, and we're constantly getting asked now to go faster and be more pivotal, to change, to do new stuff that we've never done before, and be more it's more ambiguous. And I don't have to tell anybody today that the world is pretty disruptive in many ways. So weirdly, project management seems to be the last profession to catch up with some of the digitization and data transformation that's really underpinned half the stuff we deliver. So one of my biggest challenges, we have to have a better way of doing this. And data has a better way of doing this. And I'll talk a bit about AI, and I think Peter showed some really good examples of what the definition of AI is in projects in that PwC report, but also the difference between narrow AI and stuff. And I think we should start with data. Data's just the thing that underpins it all. And if you think about how far behind we've been left as project managers. So think about it as a project manager, you're asked to make hundreds of micro decisions all the day, every day, all the time. People are asking you for updates every day, all the time. You're constantly reporting cycles, you're constantly chasing data, you're constantly trying to deal with impacts, analyze things, corral people, understand if people engage, the sentiment, understand if the thing's going to deliver in time. And you just don't have the insights to do that really well. So you have to make lots of experience-based decisions or gut-based decisions, which are quite stressful when they add up over time. If you think of in real life, we don't do that anymore. So think about when you decide to go out for dinner, when we could go out for dinner freely. Actually, instead of trawling around, walking about, phoning people up, you're walking up, the high street, finding what restaurants were available. It's done in an app in seconds. We do it with recommendations from the hive mind to tell us which is the best place to go eat. We jump on our phone and Google tells us exactly how to get there without even thinking. Amazon tells us what to buy. And if you look at the other teams that we work with, marketing have the market team. They've great automation. They've got automation in terms of their email campaigns. How to filter people. They've got the best analytics. The processes are getting automated, and yet obviously project management behind. So one of the things I think I worry about the state of project management today is actually the pressure that gets put on project managers to make thousands and thousands of micro decisions all the time that add up to big, massive macro decisions without supporting data and without supporting processes. And you only have to look around you in your life and at your other colleagues in the organizations you work with that they've actually got the tools to do that. So AI, what is it? So and how can it help projects? So I'm going to build in a few use cases. We're going to show you some demos and stuff and show you some, but it's easier to talk about it and actually to do it in general terms. So, there's many ways. And I think that there's been a couple touched on in the chat, and Peter talked about it. That I think firstly the thing is that Gartner prediction that 80% of our work today will be eliminated. Well, I think Peter touched on it. 50% of our work today is already wasteful, and none of us enjoy doing it. So we spend as project managers about 50% of our week chasing information, copying information from one system to another, to one PowerPoint, to one Excel spreadsheet, from one project management tool to one finance tool, to the IT teams on a different tool, to the change management teams on a different tool. We're copying information, chasing information all the time. So actually, if we eliminate 80% of that, that's good news for us. And some of the ways that obviously, when we look at the narrow AI and the stuff that Peter showed in this chart on the left-hand side, so the automation, detection, identification, I don't think that's a artificial intelligence. That's not a really useful term. That is, it is automation, it's bot technology, it's machine learning that can help us gather and process data automatically. So all the information that you're constantly trying to find that's sitting in everything else, we have the ability, we have the tools readily available to us to suck that data in, to process it, to structure it quickly. We can automate the workflows of that data. We can automate the notifications, the triggers. We can use bot technology to copy what we do. So that simple bot technology that is readily available just watches what you do, and then copies your habits. They might be bad, they might be good, but it copies them and says, well, should I do that for you the next time? If you're always doing that repetitive task, if you always do the same thing after you do one other thing. So, again, the ability to automate quick routine tasks, as Peter mentioned, and to automate workflows between triggers of data and notifications is readily available. Even in Microsoft Suite, we've got Power Apps and Flow, etc., that can help you do that stuff. I think one of the biggest things we can be doing with machine learning stuff is the sort of detection and identification of hidden insights in data. As good as we think we are not machines. So we cannot process information, and we are full of bias. So someone mentioned AI is full of bias. It is. You've got to be very, very careful. It's a much longer conversation, but humans are full of bias as well. And that's, and ultimately, if AI is learning from humans, it's going to get us. So you have to be very careful. But we've also got lots and lots of pressures. We've all got different perceptions, different incentivizations, different agendas. So it's very difficult for us to really find new insights and interpret data fast, especially large, complex data and large, complex projects. So that is where machine learning doesn't necessarily need to give us the answers, but it can actually find new insights, new trends for us to look at and try and derive answers itself. So again, that's a thing that can really speed up our impact analysis, our mitigation work that we have to do when there's issues. Then we can start going a bit further, is we can start to predict risks, slippages, predict issues before they happen in projects. And I'll give you a couple of examples of how we sort of do that in Sharktower, and also talk about, I think, some of the comments in the group chat about the challenges with historic data and everything else in that. So there's a number of things we can do. We can learn really, really fast. So the benefit of applying machine learning and learning adaptive technologies on top of your data is it will learn really, really fast how well you're performing. So yes, you might not have the best historic data. Probably most of your project data was inaccurate anyway, and was already full of subjectivity and bias, and it's probably poor quality and poor depth. I think someone mentioned that, how can we predict projects post-COVID? Because all of us, everything in the world's changed. And you're right, we can't predict anything accurately at the moment in the world in terms of things like supply chain and your estimations and other things and productivity. But by having rapidly learning technologies on top of your data, you can learn here and now. So you can learn very, very quickly in a small period of time of how well you're estimating, how well your completion rate is happening, what is the team sentiment. So applying natural language processing that, again, is very commonly available. We have it in some of those bots that Peter's talking to. We have it in most call center technology. If you phone up, there is natural language processing working in the background to understand if you are potentially a risk and allowing when you're applying for mortgages, etc. And we can do that across teams in projects as well. So one of the things we do in Sharktower is look at all the text that exists in the project, whether it's the way that people have written work, they've commented on it, let's say it's the way they've written a status report, even the way that they've defined an activity or a task or a story. Is it ambiguous? Is it clear? We look at that, and we look at it across the sort of lexicon of project language as well that we build up to see those are project nuances and words, and we can understand sentiment or engagement of team. And it's probably the biggest risk to your project is when the team becomes disengaged. You're going to have problems, and it's going to be hard to recover. So we look at that across the park, and that's really useful when you've got disparate teams, you've got teams in remote locations, and we don't focus on humans. Like we definitely don't focus on performance. We focus on what work is causing engagement or sentiment to go down. And we all know from project managers, generally it's when a new bit of work's come in, it's overloaded a team, or the work's come in, it's ambiguous, so people don't believe in it. That causes people to have stress, and that causes them to be disengaged, and that causes them to perform, not at their best, and to cause slippages. So again, how can we use machine learning and natural language, techniques and NLP techniques to understand sentiment? Because be honest, again, when I was a project manager and I had a team all sat in the same office as me, all working together, I knew how everybody felt. I knew who needed a kick up the arse. I knew who needed a cake to reward them. I don't know that anymore because I'm sitting on Zoom calls half the time. I've got people around the world. My project's got 300 people on it. So it's really, really hard to have that intimacy that you used to have before. So again, that's where it doesn't change my job as a project manager, but it helps me to be able to do it better and to the best ability. And then a couple of other ways I think we apply AI in Sharktower, but I think you'll see it in other tools, and I think you'll see it in things in applications used all the time, is how to help you focus. So recommendation engines that say, I believe this is the most important thing for you to work on today, or here's a change that's happened in the portfolio that I think is probably the biggest critical factor of you to go look at. So don't go chase all the red projects that you've got. There's actually a project, an upcoming risk that we think is bigger, and it's going to have a bigger impact on your overall benefits, for example. So how to focus people on the most important value add work they can be helping with today. And then the last part is how we can really start trying to remove the human bias. And I'm very careful when I say human bias. It's around the subjectivity. Like, we all want to do the right thing, everybody, and as much as we get frustrated by different teams and different stakeholder groups and everybody wants to do the right thing. But if you think of a normal project, it's set up with people with completely different purpose incentivizations. So you'll have the internal team, you'll have the internal business owners that are there. They've got targets to hit, so they need this efficiency or the improvement in sales. So they care about the business targets because that's what they get their bonus on. Then you'll have the internal project team, and actually they're measured on quality of projects actually more often than the quality of output. So is the project managed well? Is it hitting its milestones? Has it got no change requests? And then you get the consultancy. They've got a statement of work. They care about utilization. Then you get a vendor who's promised you software. They only care about the software. So everybody's going to be subjective. Everybody's going to feel under pressure because they've got to protect their bit. So what we want to do is actually get everybody to work together best as possible. And to do that, we need to try and remove some of the human bias and subjectivity that comes when we keep asking everybody else to report on their own thing and their own performance. And actually, that's where we can start to use qualitative project health scores that look at all the data, look at our cost management, look at our velocity, look at our team sentiment, and combine all these things to try and get a real, quantitative health score that can augment what we're hearing and seeing and being told, and help us again as project managers to know where to look. I think one of the things I always say that we're trying to do certainly with narrow AI, so detection, identification, automation, some of the machine learning stuff, is we're just trying to reduce uncertainty all the time. What we're trying to deliver as project managers is really, really difficult and complex. So how can we try and reduce that for you and tell you where to look? And where can we use that to increase the probability of successful outcomes? That's what we're trying to do in the main. Hopefully that made some sense in some of the use cases. why should you care? So is AI the end of project management? Is it a threat to your job? I think a few people have said it in the chat brilliantly. We don't want to be doing those manual status reports that nobody reads anyway. Let the machine do that. Let the the workflow automation, let the bots do that for you. You actually get beyond that and actually let's have platforms that gather the data and actually analyze it and give us quantitative health scores and everything, do that for us and tell us where to look. We want to spend more time, and I think almost everyone said it, that we want to spend more time with the people. So more and more, it's not good enough as project managers just to deliver projects on time, on cost, on budget. Well, that was right. Sorry, to quality. I've said the same thing twice because by the time we finish delivering, anyway, the world's changed. So we really, really have to understand the business and our customers. We need to be, project leaders and not just manage the thing we've been asked to deliver. We need to be project leaders where we can add strategic advice to the business. Say, look, when do we need to stop projects? How many project people on this call have been rewarded for stopping a project and been putting their hand up saying, I don't think this is going to add any value? Probably not. It's not how your bonus worked. So, we should be there understanding when the business really needs this outcome, when they don't need it, how to stop, how to make sure that the thing we're doing, we can pull different levers. That means spending a lot more time understanding business and customers. Spends a hell of a lot of time with our stakeholders and our teams and making sure that the solutions that come out are going to be sustainable and add value, or if not, how do we quickly change them and pivot and stop, do something else? And that, one of the things I like to challenge is we don't want to spend our time managing. None of us want to spend our time managing people, managing reports, managing data. We want to spend time working with people, working on solutions, implementing outcomes, and actually adding value. And I think I've been challenging this for decades, is shouldn't we be value managers and not project managers? But our ways of working, some of the governance frameworks we had, some of the stuff that, remember Prince 2 was set up decades ago to try and control things that now become almost uncontrollable. And even agile frameworks, again, we start to put safer on them. We start to get, we're not here to manage those things. We're here to deliver outcomes. And I think if we can then pass off the managing of ththose governance things, the managing of the reporting, the managing of assurance and delivery assurance to AI, bots, and data tools, then we can go and do the stuff we want to do. Like we really enjoy doing as project managers or project leaders, as I should say. So in summary, because I think your questions are probably going to be the more interesting bit, I think we get to is, AI can make us better project leaders, not extinct project managers. So predictive analytics, real-time data insights, and I mean real-time. I think one of the things we really, really struggle with as project managers is making decisions and making timely decisions because we just don't have real-time data. And I think the more you move towards having real-time data, and whether that's through the best platform in the world that does it all, which is unlikely, it's more likely going to be through a combination of good platforms, integration, workflow automation, bots helping you automate tasks, and predictive analytics platforms, etc., that they can bring that together. When you have that, actually, one thing that does is improves overall data quality, because when things are in real time, people can query faster, which means that people then get not challenged but asked, so that they'll have a desire to put in the right information faster. It'll make your decision making faster. So you've all sat in weekly steering groups, or even worse, the big delivery assurance meetings every month. And every time we try to make a decision, everyone's answer is, well, I don't know, because this report's probably 2 weeks out of date since it started getting made. That's not good enough to be sitting in major decisions, burning hundreds of thousands of pounds, and we can't make decisions because all the data is always a couple of weeks out of date. And I think, by bringing that together, we can really start to change the accountability, making sure that actually we're all focused on the right outcomes, we're transparent across the business, we waste less time, and we know what to focus on because we know where the real potential risks are going to be. We can make fast decisions, and ultimately we have better outcomes because we can start to mitigate those project failures and under delivery by having quicker turnarounds and quicker interventions. So that's my bit of mantra. Hopefully some of those use cases were kind of start to bring it to life. There's a lot of questions I see coming in, so I'm going to quickly flip over to Nikki, who's going to host the questions for you guys so we can have a bit of debate and maybe bring some use cases to life.
Oh, thank you, Craig. Hopefully you can all hear me. I work with Craig at Sharktower, and it's been really interesting seeing your comments come in. If I look at the themes, there's kind of three main themes that have come across. There's a chunk of questions around behaviour, a chunk around data, and a chunk around how the PM role will change, and actually a couple around how you implement it. So from the top, hopefully we answered your question on how to remove bias. So let's have another look. I think one interesting question from Melissa on the data point, does this rely on considerable data collection? What tools and data collection are likely to be required? If I could pose that one to probably you, Craig.
Yeah, so is this going to sound like a consultant answer? It depends. So I think if you want absolute answers, so if you want any of your insights, your predictive analytics, your machine learning models to be absolute, then it requires intensive data collection and lots of data and lots of cleansing that data and getting it right. And that's going to be almost impossible because we know our project data has been very unstructured. It's not been a great depth in the past, and it's probably not been good quality. So it's not trustworthy. If you put all your project data into the best machine learning models in the world, you're going to get the wrong answer because the data was already full of bias and subjectivity and inaccuracies. So there's a challenge there, and over time, but I don't think it should be a barrier to stopping. And quite often people see that as the barrier where we can't do it yet. So if the data is not there and the data quality is not there and we're going to require a lot of work, there's nothing we can do. And that's not true. I think you can really start to learn from your data fast as long as you use it with the right intention. So we say a lot with the models we have in Sharktower that these are indicators. They're not absolute answers and they can't be. But what they will do is they'll tell you where to go look as a project manager, go investigate and see if what it's indicating is true and show you things you didn't see. And then hopefully, things that's unseen risk. And then over time, because you're doing that and because the data is more transparent and open, the quality will get better. So I think it's how you use it. If you use it with intention that it's an indicator of to help you where to look as opposed to an absolute answer, I think you're absolutely right. I think that the problems about bias, historic data, quality of data will stop you getting absolutes, if that makes sense.
Great, thank you, Craig. The next one, I'll pick one from how the PM will change. Kieran and Evgeny had sort of similar questions. Kieran talked about more often than not decisions made by humans lead to the delay of projects. Can AI help us to make the right decisions in a timely fashion? And then following on, Evgeny was asking if it would be great to see any example of something that you could have made, that decision that you could have made in a faster way, in a timely fashion.
So I think the first example is if you look at that chart that Peter had of the different layers of AI and project management. So if you look at the first stuff, simply the automation of workflow and of data gathering, that's just going to make it faster. So the insights that you use today, so we're already doing it. So every one of us are already trying to use the same data. We're just hard to get out of people. It's tight, it's timely, it's hard to copy, it's hard to analyze. So even that part, and there's numerous ways to do that. That just getting data faster will make decision making better. Then you start to look at, well, how do I make the right decisions? And that's where we start to look a little bit more advanced and start looking at things such as Monte Carlo simulations and other stuff. We look at predictive models that can start to simulate complex sensitivity scenarios that say, okay, if this, if that, what's going to happen? And they can start to look at the whole supply chain of your project and dependency network of your project. So that's the other part. So the first bit is, how can I get insights and data faster so I can make decisions more timely? And two, how can I help make the right decisions, which becomes more complex in terms of some of the modeling work.
Cool, thank you. So let's move from the PM role to implementation. We've got a couple of questions around how difficult are AI tools to implement, and that's from Melissa and from John. What are the dangers of AI? If we could have sort of a two-part answer.
Yeah, and I think it's comes to there. So bot technology is dead easy to implement. There's lots of it. It's almost it's almost a consumer product these days without people knowing it, that you can deploy it on your own desktop, depending on your, obviously, company's IT policies. But it simply learns from you. And it's not doing anything. It's not making any decisions from you. It's not actually intelligent. All it's doing is learning and copying and suggesting, I've seen you do this thing 10 times before. Should I do it for you the next time? I saw you did this. I saw you gave this answer to that question twice before. Should I do it? So actually, it can start automating that copying and pasting that you're doing. That's the first thing. So all of a sudden you've freed up some time. It can automate that standard answer you give every time the governance person comes and shouts at you. Should I just say this answer? Maybe you don't want to use it. That becomes a bit dangerous. But so bot technology is dead easy. I'll say that to start doing. Actually, it can just observe you, and it's just going to help. It's just trying to take tasks away from you. It's not doing anything smart. It's not making any decisions for you, and it'll prompt you most of the time until you trust it to do the right thing. Other parts, I think, are much there. I'll jump to the dangers of, so I don't overdo that. And the dangers of AI and relying on, I think it's what I touched before, is so when you really start to look at general AI and actually trying to automate big, complex decision making and scenario modeling, and also trying to use it to allocate work or performance manage or decide on who should be allocated. There's a lot of things that come in there where you've got to be careful, because I'll give a real example of this is an experiment I actually did prior to this role. We were looking at the productivity of certain colleagues in an airport, and there's nothing sophisticated here, but the analytics clearly told us a certain region of the country wasn't productive as everyone else. And actually, for critical roles in a critical airport that had a critical infrastructure, when you need your critical projects to happen, would you put them on it? It was nothing to do with the people. It was to do with the fact that they lived across a bridge. The bridge was constantly interrupted at the time. They constantly had the worst attendance, and that was because of the ecosystem. Now, if you put that information into a machine learning model that automatically allocated resource to critical work, it would never pick those people, and then they would always be disadvantaged in terms of it. That work. And I did a work a long time ago at Capgemini. We started to look at work allocation for our consultants colleagues, but it kept getting the balance wrong, because for a consultancy to work, you need to balance inexperienced people with experienced people. Otherwise, you have no succession plan. You have no balance. You can't have graduate schemes and stuff. So you kind of have to wait. So that's some of the dangers. But you've got to be careful where when it's making a decision for you, and it's starting, especially when it comes to people and selection of things and performance management. But then clearly you have to be careful of, do not rely on models based on your historic data, because your historic data is going to be full of bias and stuff. So again, you need, for many, many years and for many decades, we will need human intervention to make sure it's right, and to almost interpret some of what the model's doing. It's one of the things we tried to do a lot with our models is explainable AI. So we used to just show output in charts. Now we try to explain, why do we think that's happening? What work's causing it, so you can go and look at it, as opposed to just assuming that the machine learning model we're using in this instance is right.
Okay, so that's some great responses. And I think we've got, if there's more stuff there, we will certainly look at it. I just conscious of time, so we should kind of wrap this up now. I think the other danger I would say is, I think there's a danger to project managers, the ones that like to hide in the data collection, in the reporting, in the detail. I think there's a danger to them. I think they potentially could become extinct, because there will be nowhere to hide.
Without being too controversial, Peter, you're right. I think we've all worked in it where we've seen people that have just floated through organizations and have made an industry out of that Excel spreadsheet with the VBA code, that they're the only ones that know how to use it. That's not good enough, right? And I don't think we should feel sorry that gets automated. Hopefully those people repurpose and do something else, but I think don't be coy about it. We all know those people.
Well, I've never afraid to be controversial. That's I didn't get where I am today without being controversial. What am I doing here? Why is that? There we go. I'd love you. We had a poll earlier on about how you felt about it. There's a different code you need to put in for this one. So last time around, about 59% of you were excited about AI and project management. So if you could vote again using that new code up there, that would be fascinating to see what do you think now as we reach the end of this this webinar? Not the end of the conversation, not the end of the journey, of course. So thank you. Let's see where people are. Let's give that 30 seconds to do, and then I will close things off.
One thing, as people are voting, I was very interested in the fact that when we first did it, we had over 60% were excited, and then over 60% were not using it in any way in their organisation, which shows, okay, yeah, this is more about education. It's probably about starting small as well, on some of the examples. But
I think it's pretty clear it's changed there. Look, I mean, just like that, you know, it's all on the left-hand side. The majority are excited. I mean, there's the degree of caution, of course. There's some neutrals, but there's not a lot of negative there at all. So that's brilliant. Thank you for doing that. All right. Which does bring us to the end. As I said, this is a fascinating conversation, and I think, you know, there's ways that we could continue this conversation in the future. We will certainly be reaching out to you after the event with the link to the recording, with some follow-up information, etc. If you have questions, then you can certainly contact myself or Sharktower. You've got the details there. I think, Craig, I think you know, I'll give you the last word, but as far as I can see, you kind of said it's not the end of project management, it's the end of traditional project management, but it is the future of project management. So I think that's a great summary. But thank you for my time. Craig, final words before we say goodbye to people.
Thank you, Peter, for hosting this, to everyone attending. I can't summarize it better than you do. I would just say, just as Peter says, keep up the conversation. Please ask us questions. My only shameless push is follow us on LinkedIn. We've got a competition. We're nearly at 1,000 followers, so you can win some sharp prizes. But come on there and ask us quick questions on LinkedIn or Twitter as well, and let's have a deeper conversation with the questions you never got to ask. Perfect.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We will be back, I'm sure, and continue this conversation. But for now, closing off the webinar. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you all in the future of project management.